You have been introduced to the different types of cameras. Now let's look closer at these cameras and see what kind of cameras they are, what types are they, and through this you will also see the differences between the traditional cameras that were there and the digital cameras that you're used to. Let's find out from Mr. Gopinath Srikandan, who is going to take us closer to each of these cameras. Gopinath.
So today we are going to look at a few different types of cameras. So let us start with a large format camera, then we'll go on to a medium format cameras, and then we'll look at a few variations within the medium format cameras, and then we'll go to SLRs, and then finally DSLRs, and within DSLRs these days we have a new breed called the mirrorless. We'll see each one of them one by one. So let us start with the view camera. So what is in front of you here? This is a view camera. This was manufactured sometimes in the 1950s. This is interesting in many different ways, and it is also radically different from most other cameras that you are going to see, or what came much later. In the sense, this camera is in some sense is true to the very first cameras that came into use, the box cameras, or even you can even go back to the camera obscura. So where there is a box like a structure, and you have a lens in the front, and you have a recording medium at the back. So well, the lens and the recording medium at the back, in between there is a box. This is the primary design of all cameras, but then this view camera gives a lot of room for you to manipulate a whole range of things. Let us imagine that you are taking a photograph of a tall building. Normally when we point our cell phone these days, or any DSLR cameras, when you look up at the top of the building and you try to frame that within your camera, quite often you see a distortion. At the bottom the building is very broad, and then as it goes up the frame, the top of the building looks a little tapered, or rather it narrows down. So with this camera, with the view camera, what you can do is you can adjust those perspectives. Say for example, in most cameras if you look at it, the lens plane is fixed, the film plane is fixed, or in nowadays the digital sensor plane is fixed, nothing in between changes. But in a view camera, all these things, both the film plane and the lens plane can be changed. Like for example, in this thing you can, for example, you can shift horizontally the lens plane, or you can rise and make it fall the lens plane. Same way at the rear, this is the film plane here. The film plane can also be changed, as you can see. Then normally when you want to take a horizontal picture or a vertical picture, we turn the camera. In this situation, the camera is large, it is already fixed on a tripod, and it sits on a rail, it is difficult to rotate. So what we have here is the film plane could be rotated as it is. Okay. So these cameras are used largely by professionals because they needed some special requirements, especially in architecture photography or for specialized photography, even in sometimes when they are photographing certain products in advertising. So this versatility gave a lot of control for the photographers, but then it also had some drawbacks. For example, in this case you can only take 2 shots at a time. So which means, so it had a cartridge, a film cartridge is there. So this is a film cartridge, this is like 4 inches by 5 inches film is loaded into this, and to load this you will have to load it in a dark room. Once you have loaded it, you insert it into where exactly it fits into the film plane, and then you made your focus. The interesting thing about making the focus in field camera is quite often we are used to focusing through the lens. The lens is where you made the adjustments, lens is where what you use to focus a subject. In this case the lens is fixed, but the film plane is moved by rotating this knob. So it is the same process that you achieve the same end, but instead of the lens you are moving the film plane. So, this is what a field camera is. It gave complete control to the photographer to get the right picture the way they wanted. Now, we are going to see the technological progression. Imagine the same field camera became a compact one. So, the next camera we are going to see is something very compact, but kind of retained some of the aspects of this field camera. So, we saw a large format camera. Now, we will go down to a medium format camera, which is in some sense a miniature of the large format camera, but with some crucial differences. So, here we have a much more compact medium format camera. When we say medium format camera, I think we have also discussed it earlier. It used a roll film, unlike in the large format camera where we put a sheet film into a cartridge and then we exposed it. Here we load a roll film. So, this roll film is also called a 120 roll film, which gave the photographer to take about 12 exposures, and the resulting negative size, each negative size was about 6 centimeters by 6 centimeters. So, if you notice this camera and compare with the large format camera we saw just before this retains the bellows like the large format camera. It has a similar looking lens, and then you have the film plane at the back. The crucial difference is now the focusing is done not by the adjusting the railing or the film plane over the rail as in the large format camera. Here the lens as well as the film plane are both fixed, but at the same time there is an option to adjust the lens or rather focus the lens as we do today. So, this is a marked shift from the fixed lens style we had in the large format cameras. So, this unit has the lens, the shutter mechanism and the aperture all clubbed together in this one unit. So, you adjusted the focus by rotating the lens, you set your aperture and the shutter, and all you did was click once you reached it, you reached the optimum settings. So, another crucial thing about or important thing about both this type of medium format cameras as well as the large format cameras is they did not have any built in exposure meters. So, we all know what an exposure is and we have to arrive at an appropriate setting to get the right photograph. Now, how did people estimate what was the right setting when we are working on these cameras? So, people used an external light meter to evaluate or rather find out the exact settings to get the right picture. So, compared to the large field cameras, these were significantly smaller and compact. So, this camera what you see in front of me, it can be further compressed by retracting this bellows mechanism and it fits into a nice pocket, if you have a large coat pocket that is. So, technology moved on, although this was very compact and easy to carry around, there were certain drawbacks. For example, with age holes would appear on this bellows. When there are holes, it would affect your picture quality, and then the bellows will have to be replaced, and that requires cost and time, money and effort. If the technician does not replace it properly, then again you have some problems. So, people are constantly looking for better solutions, and then came around the same time, I would say in the 50s and early 60s, this camera came in. So, the similarity between these cameras are very much, in the sense the crucial difference is instead of the bellows in this camera, here they have replaced it with a retracting barrel. So, when you wanted to take a picture, you extended the barrel, made your focus, set your aperture and speed, and you clicked, as simple as that.
do hope that you have enjoyed getting to know these cameras, which are no longer in use, and we have many more for you. We'll meet you again in the next video, and there you'll get to know about a few more cameras which were once in use and which is important to know so that we have a sense of how photography has developed over a period of time.